everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to talk about bones of skull. And here at the side you can see the diagrammatic representation of skull showing different bones of skull in different colors. So you can see that for the reference. Now let's start the topic with introduction. Human skull is complex bone that forms the head. It protects the brains for facial structure and provides attachment point for muscles involved in chewing, speech, and facial expression. It is divided into two main parts. The first are the cranial bones that form the protective cranial cavity surrounding the brain, and the second are the facial bones that form the structure of the face and houses the opening for respiratory and digestive tract. First, we will talk about cranial bone. These bones encase the brain and are tightly joined by immovable joints that are called sutures. They include frontal bone, that is unpaired bone, that means there will be one frontal bone in every skull. It forms the forehead and roof of eye socket. It contains the frontal sinuses and contributes to the upper part of cranial cavity. Second cranial bone is parietal bone, that are the paired bone, that means there will be two parietal bone in every skull. They are located on either side of skull. They form most of the roof and upper sides of cranial cavity. Next we have is temporal bone, that are paired bones of cranial bones, and they are like two temporal bone in every skull. They are found beneath the parietal bone on either side of the head, and they contain ear canal and structure essential for hearing and balance. Each temporal bone has processes such as mastoid process and styloid process. Next cranial bone we have is occipital bone, that is unpaired bone. That means there will be one occipital bone in every skull. It forms the back and base of skull. It contains the foramen magnum through which the spinal cord connects to the brain. Further talking about cranial bone, we have sphenoid bone, that is unpaired bone of skull cranium. That means there will be one sphenoid bone in each skull. That is a butterfly shaped bone at the base of skull. It articulates with many other cranial bones and contains the sella turcica, which houses the pituitary gland. Next cranial bone we have is ethmoid bone. That is also the unpaired bone. That means there will be one ethmoid bone in every skull. That is a delicate bone located between the eyes. It contributes to the walls of orbits and nasal cavity. It contains the crista galli and cribriform plate. Now let's talk about facial bone. As we earlier said that the bones of skull are divided into two groups, the cranial bone and facial bone. We have talked about cranial bone and now we will talk about the facial bone. They are the bones that form basic framework of the face and serve protective and structural function. They include nasal bone, that are the pair bone, that means there will be two nasal bone in every facial skeleton. They are small rectangular bone that form the bridge of nose. Then the second bone of facial skeleton is maxilla, that are the pair bones, that means there will be two maxilla in every skull. They form the upper jaw, parts of orbit and anterior portion of the hard palate. Each maxilla contains a maxillary sinus. Next in facial bone we have is zygomatic bone, that are the paired bone, that means there will be two zygomatic bone in every facial skeleton. They are also known as cheekbone and they articulate with the temporal bone through the zygomatic arch. Next we have is mandible, that is unpaired bone, that means there will be one mandible in every facial skeleton or skull. It is the lower jaw bone, the only movable bone in the skull. It supports the lower teeth and play a key role in speech and chewing. Further talking about facial bone we have is lacrimal bone, that are the pair bones, and that means there will be two lacrimal bone in every facial skeleton or skull. They are small bones located in the medial wall of each orbit and they contain lacrimal groove for tear drainage. Next we have is palatine bone, that are two in number, are the paired bones. They contribute to the posterior part of hard palate and nasal cavity. Further talking about facial bone we have is inferior nasal conchae, that are also the pair bone, that means there will be two inferior nasal conchae in every facial skeleton or skull. They are thin curved bones projecting from the lateral walls of nasal cavity. Next in facial skeleton we have is vomer, that is unpaired bone. It forms the inferior part of nasal septum dividing the nasal cavity. Now let's talk about important sutures of skull. First is coronal suture, that is present between the frontal and parietal bone. Second important suture is sagittal suture, that is present between the two parietal bones. Third is lambdoid suture, that is present between the parietal and occipital bone. Fourth is Kama suture that is present between the parietal and temporal bone. Now let's talk about conclusion of this lecture video. Human skull is marvel of natural architecture, strong yet lightweight, complex yet symmetrical. Each bone plays a role in protecting the brain, supporting sensory organs, and allowing communication and movements. Understanding the skull structure is fundamental for anatomy, medicine, dentistry, and anthropology. And this was all about the bones of skull. Hopefully you liked the video. If you do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching.